Hello, lovely artists. Let me ask you something, and don't answer out loud yet. Have you ever stood in front of a piece of art, nodded slowly, maybe tilted your head, and said something like, "Wow, that's powerful"? Even though, if you're being brutally honest, you had no idea what you were looking at. You didn't feel anything. You didn't get it. But you praised it anyway. Why? Why do smart, thoughtful people praise art they don't understand? And here's the uncomfortable part. Why does not understanding sometimes make people praise it more? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you might realize that this has very little to do with art, and a lot to do with fear, identity, and the human need to belong. In this video, we're going to talk about why confusion has become a status symbol, how insecurity disguises itself as good taste, why saying "I don't get it" feels riskier than saying "I love it," and how art slowly stopped being about feeling and started being about performing intelligence. And near the end, I'll share a simple question you can ask yourself that instantly cuts through pretension. Whether you're looking at art, listening to music, or even choosing what kind of life you want to live. So let's start here. 1. The lie we tell ourselves about art. There's a lie most of us absorb quietly without realizing it. The lie is this: if I don't understand art, that means I'm not sophisticated enough. So when we encounter art that confuses us, we don't question the art. We question ourselves. And that's a very important shift, because once you believe you are the problem, praise becomes a defense mechanism. You praise the art not because it moved you, but because admitting confusion feels like admitting inferiority, and no one wants to feel inferior in public. 2. Confusion as a status symbol. Here's something strange about modern culture. Confusion used to mean this isn't working. Now, confusion often means this must be genius. If art is immediately understandable, people dismiss it as basic. If it's emotionally clear, it's too obvious. If it's beautiful, it's trying too hard. But if it's opaque, if it's uncomfortable, if it feels like a locked door, suddenly it has depth. Not because of what it says, but because of what it withholds. Confusion has become cultural currency, and praising what you don't understand is a way of saying, I belong to the people who get this, even if I don't. 3. The fear of saying I don't get it. Let's slow this down. Why is it so hard to say, I don't understand this? Think about it. We say it about math. We say it about technology. We say it about directions. But art feels personal. To say I don't get it around art feels like saying maybe I'm emotionally shallow, maybe I lack depth, maybe I'm not evolved enough. So instead, people default to praise. Not enthusiastic praise, careful praise, the kind that sounds like it's really interesting. It's challenging. It makes you think. Which usually means I don't know what to say, but I don't want to sound stupid. 4. Art as a social performance. At some point, art stopped being something we experienced privately and became something we perform publicly. Think about it. We don't just watch movies anymore. We rank them. We don't just listen to music. We signal taste. We don't just look at art. We position ourselves next to it. Liking the right art becomes proof of intelligence. Disliking it feels risky. So people praise art the way they praise wine they can't taste, by borrowing language, tone, and confidence. Not because they're lying, but because they're afraid of being exposed. 5. When art became a test. Here's the quiet shift no one talks about. Art used to ask, how does this make you feel? Now it asks, do you understand the reference? And that turns art into a test of education, a test of cultural literacy, a test of whether you belong in the room. When art becomes a test, honesty becomes dangerous because failing the test publicly hurts. So people overcompensate. They praise complexity, they praise ambiguity, they praise obscurity, not because it nourishes them, but because it protects them. 6. The emperor has no clothes, but no one wants to say it. There's an old story you probably know. The emperor is naked, everyone sees it, but no one wants to say it. Why? Because admitting the truth would mean admitting you were fooled. Or worse, admitting you didn't understand something others claim to. That same dynamic plays out in art spaces constantly. One person praises, another nods. Soon, disagreement feels rebellious. So silence turns into agreement. Agreement turns into admiration. And admiration becomes canon. Not because the art is powerful, but because no one wants to be the first to say, "This does nothing for me." 7. When not feeling anything feels like failure. Here's the cruel irony. Art is supposed to move us, but when it doesn't, we assume we're broken. So instead of asking, "Why doesn't this resonate?" we ask, "What am I missing?" That question keeps people trapped because it implies the meaning is there. You're just too unsophisticated to access it, and that keeps people praising art they don't feel, waiting for an emotional response that never comes. 8. The rise of intellectualized emotion. There's another layer here. Modern culture deeply mistrusts raw emotion. If you say, "I cried," "I felt seen," "This broke my heart," people often dismiss it as sentimental. But if you say, "It interrogates postmodern identity through fragmentation," suddenly you sound intelligent. So people replace feeling with analysis, emotion with explanation, connection with interpretation. Praising art becomes less about resonance and more about sounding thoughtful. 9. Art isn't a riddle, even though we treat it like one. Here's something important. Art is not a puzzle you failed to solve. It's not a math problem with a hidden solution. It's not a code that unlocks intelligence. Art is communication. And communication that doesn't communicate anything to you is allowed to be questioned. You're not obligated to admire something just because it's difficult. Difficulty alone is not depth. 10. Why I didn't like it feels like a personal risk. Let's be honest. Saying I didn't like it feels like rejecting a tribe, especially when the art is praised by critics, institutions, or influential people. Disliking it feels like you're uneducated, you're uncultured, you're emotionally behind. So people soften the truth. They say, "I appreciate it, I respect it, I see why others like it," which often means I'm distancing myself from honesty to stay safe. 11. When praise becomes self-protection. At a certain point, praise stops being about the art at all. It becomes armor. Armor against judgment, exclusion, being outed as not deep enough. People praise art the way they nod during conversations they don't understand. It's not admiration, it's survival. 12. The question. No one teaches us to ask. Here's the question that changes everything. Not, "Do I understand this?" But, "Did this do anything to me? Did it stir something? Did it irritate you? Did it comfort you? Did it repel you?" Neutrality is an answer too, and it's a more honest one than borrowed praise. 13. Art that needs permission. Isn't art, it's a club. When art requires authority to be enjoyed, it stops being art and becomes membership, museums, critics, academia. None of these are bad, but they shape perception. And when enjoyment requires permission, people stop trusting themselves. They outsource their reactions. They wait to be told how to feel. 14. The quiet violence of pretending. Here's what pretending costs you. Every time you praise art, you don't feel. You learn not to trust your own responses. You learn that your intuition is suspect, that your emotional compass is unreliable. And that doesn't stay confined to art. It leaks into relationships, career choices, identity, desire. You start choosing what you're supposed to like, not what actually nourishes you. 15. What honest art appreciation looks like. Honest appreciation sounds simple, but it's radical. It sounds like, I don't get this and that's okay. This doesn't resonate with me. I respect the effort, but it doesn't move me. That honesty doesn't make you shallow, it makes you alive. 16. The art that changes. You doesn't ask for approval. The art that truly matters rarely asks you to prove intelligence. It just hits. It bypasses language. It bypasses theory. It goes straight to the nervous system. You feel it before you explain it, and that's how you know it's real for you. So why do people praise art they don't understand? Because uncertainty feels dangerous. Because belonging feels safer than honesty. Because we've been taught that confusion equals depth. And because saying, I don't feel anything, feels like failure. But here's the truth. You don't owe art your praise. You don't owe culture your confusion. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for what moves you. The only real question worth asking is this. Does this speak to me, or am I pretending it does? If this resonated with you, sit with it. And next time you're standing in front of something everyone else praises, try listening to yourself first. That quiet voice, that's where real taste begins.